We the people of the state of Jefferson, ever mindful of the rights we hold most dear, life, liberty, and property, are compelled to establish this, our new state, for the preservation of these natural inalienable rights. Our mandate for the protection of life, liberty, and property gives urgent voice to our demand for representation that reflects our needs, our history, our culture, and our moral impervitude. Time has come for 51. This is Terry Rapoza.
And Win Carpenter. You're listening to Jefferson State of Mind podcast.
How you doing, everybody? This is Terry Rapoza and Win Carpenter, along with Jeremy Edwardson. We're here with Jefferson State of Mind, and we're excited about having our guest on here. We're going to be talking about some things of what we can do. We've always talked about problems, but we're going to talk about some ways to solve those issues we have in our counties. You'll be able to hear this podcast for the first time on this Thursday night, which would be the 23rd, I believe, of December.
Yep.
Yeah. And it'd be at 6 o'clock. Anyway, Jeremy, how are you, my friend?
Good. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Anyway, there's been a recall going on in Shasta County. For those of you who don't know, most of you probably do, because we've gotten a lot of coverage just about everywhere, all across the United States. And we have Jeremy on today. He is the producer of the Red, White, and Blueprint, one of the producers. And we're going to be talking about what is truth and what is not truth. What is maybe a lie, what's a half lie, what's a half truth. And we have found this with the people who are opponents of the people's will to do the recall. And this group is called Shasta Forward. And Jeremy, if you could elaborate a little bit on what we were talking about just before we came on the program, on what you see as far as some of the propaganda that they're putting out and the half-truths and the lies that they're spreading.
Yeah, well, we saw it early on. It's quite clever, really, and it's not my style. I don't like. I like just exposing the truth and then letting the people decide. I think that's the way it should be done. Yeah. But they've done some things from the very beginning. It was they turned us into the FPPC. Mm-hmm. They turned all the groups in and basically said, hey, you got to look over here. Well, it was nothing from the beginning. I called the FPPC as soon as they filed paperwork.
And these are the three supervisors that we had initially wanted to recall, yes?
Yeah, their names were all in the paperwork. Particularly Modi. There were letters from Modi. There was, his signature was on everything. And basically the FPP, they made it sound like it's nothing. They said, if you don't hear back from us in a couple of weeks, this is nothing. And I talked to several attorneys and whatnot, and they said, what is this? But then for months, even recently, it's just like, did you know Red, White, and Blueprint is under investigation by the Fair Political Practices of California? It's like, come on, guys. Like,
ain't happening.
No, but people don't know. So people hear that and they go, ooh, what do they do? What do they do? It's just, it's kind of like this half truth, half lie, or, maybe blatant lies at some point. But the recent ad I heard was someone saying, stop the lies, support Modi, vote no on the recall. And they said, the recallers would like the recallers are saying that basically the Board of Supervisors has jurisdiction over the schools when it comes to mask mandates or vaccine mandates and things like that. But they don't. Mm-hmm. They're lying to you, And I'm like, we've done our very best to let people know this isn't about, having teeth when it comes to a resolution. When we asked the Board of Supervisors to get behind the medical workers, the teachers, the moms and fathers and their kids, and with some of these mandates, we've done our best to educate the public that this isn't about jurisdiction. It's about advocacy.
Well, mandate's not a law.
Yeah. Right. And you've got guys like Tom Patty with San Joaquin that has been very bold in doing what he feels like is right as a constitutionalist and and then we'll bring that back to our board. And Leonard, Joe, and Mary continue to say, we have no jurisdiction there. We think you should talk to your state representative. And our response is, this is about advocacy. Like, join with Tom Patty. Tom Patty told me directly, I know this doesn't have teeth, but this means a lot to the people and to the school boards, to the teachers, to know that the elected officials in this county stand with them.
They're basically interposing. They're standing between the state and the school boards and the parents. So they're standing there saying, hey, no, not on my watch. You're not going to do this. And that's all that everybody here is asking our board of supervisors to do. I mean, what does it take to stand up and say, hey, no, we're not going to allow you to do this in our county? That's all they have to do.
Yeah, and when it comes to not having teeth, it's like they don't. The money flows directly from the state to the school.
Yeah.
So they can go, well, I'm not even going to listen to you. The state can say, I'm not even going to listen to you. I'm going to continue business as usual with the school board, and send our money just like we have, unless they don't follow our instructions. So that's. But it's just in the messaging, like it's all like half truths. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense because you talk about mandates. Well, mandates are not law, but a mandate could be considered a law because if everybody does something and obeys something, it's just sort of like
they're going along with it.
They're going along with it, and so you have that issue with the mandates. The other thing that comes to mind when we're talking about this is the fact that it's the same thing with the resolution. If everybody believes that that's what we should do in the resolution, then guess what? That's popular opinion. Popular opinion is a very, very strong tool that we have. Standing together is the strongest tool we have. The challenge with what they're doing on the other side with the mandates, the other side of it, is they're blackmailing our boards of supervisors. They're blackmailing the citizens. They're blackmailing the superintendents of schools. And they're blackmailing them by saying, if you don't follow the mandates, we will pull your credentials. What say you about that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And they've used this this broken system. This we'll take all your money and we'll pay for these things, so you don't have to worry about it. They've taken that and they've turned it against us, and now they're blackmailing the counties. They're holding the counties hostage to whatever they want us to do in order to get our taxpayer dollars sent back to us.
And for them to be able to mandate, I'm talking about the state now, to be able to take our money and have the mandatory spending being on the things they want. And as we talked about before, 87% of the money that most counties get are mandated by the state on what they want to do. Oh, and by the way, they do take a 14% administration pay. That's another little cut they get every time we send stuff down to them. Yeah.
Yeah, the state does that. Yep.
Yeah. And that's all the state. So whether you obey with whether you submit to an evil master or not, it's going to be up to the people. And I think that you've made some good points. We've talked about some of the things about Modi, and I'd like your reaction to this. Out of all this stuff and all these accusations that Leonard Modi made himself in a letter to his constituents, talking about how people in the community are actually trying to harm innocent citizens if they don't go along with them, that he's treating the people who are using their constitutionally protected right of a recall to say that they don't really even have that right. Not only that, but they're thugs. They're going against the law. They're trying to hurt people. And you have come up with the idea of joining the counties together and having the information that goes to every county as a solution, a cross-pollination of the counties. That would combat some of this misinformation, I think. The one last thing I want to say is the only person who has been found guilty of anything is Leonard Modi. And he was found guilty of using his elected position, his position as a sitting supervisor, for his own personal gain during the car fire by using first responders to go back and fill up his generator and even at one point go back and get wine. There was expensive wine out of his neighbor's home. And he was found guilty of that. And we have a DA that lowered the malfeasance, which is what it is. It's a crime, it's a felony, down to a misfeasance. And I talked to an attorney. He had to look up what misfeasance meant. So I think that the counties, the county committees of correspondence with these supervisors working together, the good ones, the people on that, probably backed by a citizens committee, might be the answer. So does that sort of fit into the criteria of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to what you just said. I'll like talking about Modi's narrative of the recallers
unbelievable.
being, thugs and threatening and all this. It's that's not even a half truth or a half lie. I mean, it's just not reality.
Just a lie.
It's just a lie because I know all these people and that's not happening. Like nobody's going around and threatening and harassing or whatever, if there is anybody doing that, it's like a very fringe situation, but it's not something I'm aware of. It's a narrative. A lot of it came from the water splash, which if you haven't seen Red, White, and Blueprint episode 6.5, you need to do so. It's on YouTube, Facebook. You can go to the redwhiteandblueprint.com and watch it, but it really lays out the facts of that situation, which in all reality was not really much of anything. Even the police that did the initial investigation said in so many words, this is a nothing burger. Like there's nothing to see here. Yet that turned into, Carlos Zapata and members of the Red, White, and Blueprint assault an anti-recall, supporter of Modi or whatever it was. And so that becomes sort of a narrative that's put out there through the media, through the board talking about it, through the advertisements. And so I do meet people now and they go, I had no idea. For months and months, I stood on the sideline because I kept hearing that you guys were all like going around threatening and now I know you guys and I know that's not true at all. And I wish I would have got involved earlier because I love that I am aware and educated onto what's going on in this county. And I see that our county does need some real change. It's just, I thought you guys were like going around like threatening people.
Well, the only ones that were going around threatening was coming from the DA's office when they were sending out investigators after two patriotic women who are trying to hold these board of supervisors accountable, and they're going after these two women at their homes. So the only ones being threatened are those two ladies. And that's unacceptable on any level. And so, that's where it's happening. And then there are no lies being told by the opposition, the recall side of it. There aren't any lies being told there, but the guys that are being recalled, special with Leonard Modi, he is the one that has been lying. You listen to the radio ads, you watch the TV ads, and you look at the print media that he sends out. There are lies attached to every single one of those. Every single one of them. And people have to understand that. Question everything that he says or prints. You have to question it all.
Yeah, and I would say, like, he definitely is the most smooth, conniving out of the board. Like a Joe Chimente will have very honest moments of his personal belief, and you'll never get that from Modi. Modi doesn't look at the people. He doesn't want to respond. If he ever does respond, it'll be something like, I encourage you to go speak to your school boards because we have no jurisdiction. But then somebody like Joe will have a really honest moment and say, look, I don't agree with the mandates. I don't agree that I think there should be a personal choice when it comes to health. But I find it's better to fly under the radar and not write letters to the state saying we disagree, because at the end of the day, we need grants, we need funds, and if we throw a flag up in the air, they might say, "Oh, well, you're a thorn in my side. I'm not giving you that grant," which is sort of what he was getting at. Yeah. So it was he said this. I choose to fly under the radar, and I think that was an honest moment. I think that's a good admission. I think it's for somebody like me, it's like, man, you seem like a nice guy, but you got to go because I want a
the
leader.
Reasoning power. I mean, what's his reasoning?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm being blackmailed, so my reasoning is the less I do, as long as I comply, then that's his reasoning. I mean, that's the whole problem with people like that is that they're not grasping the issue as much as reasoning how to get through the moment, but not looking at the real problem.
And I think a lot of people in this county do want leaders in our as supervisors that don't want to fly under the radar, that want to stand up and say, no, this is not right, and we stand with the people of this county. Like that's what our overwhelmingly majority really wants. That they don't want to be a county that flies in the radar and tries to bob and weave these mandates.
Well, they're acting like cowards when they do that because they're willing to take the punishment and brutality from the state, but not the constituency, where it counts. Your home base, where you live, in the district within you live, your neighborhood, your neighbors. They're not willing to talk to them or take anything from them, but man, they'll take everything and anything from the state.
Well, you talked about jurisdiction, and the thing is that, again, you go back to the jurisdiction of the school board. Yesterday we had Katie Gorman, who's a teacher.
Yep.
And we had Tim Garman, who is a school board president of the Happy Valley Elementary School District, and also is running for supervisor for District 2. Anyway, when we had them on, we found out the jurisdiction of a school board, and the school board really only has two functions.
Yep.
One is to select the superintendent of the schools, not of all schools, but the school. The other function that they have is they have the function of watching the budget. Those are the two main functions they have.
Yep.
So the jurisdiction of a school board really is very limited. The thing is with the superintendent that they bring, they have to have a superintendent because the state says you've got to have superintendents in your school. But the other part of that is that they can hire and fire that person, sort of like the issue that we have with the Board of Supervisors and Health and Human Services. We have to have a Karen Ranstrom, but it doesn't have to be Karen Ranstrom,
right?
Because she serves at the pleasure of the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
Now, you brought up a good point yesterday when Tim Garman had talked about how, well, if the superintendent that we have at the school is afraid of losing his credential because he doesn't follow the mandates, you made the point that, well, what if he loses his credentials? So what?
Right. What happens?
What happens?
Can they not retain them in that position? So the state comes in and takes their credential. Big deal. The board is responsible to the district that they serve, as far as the school district. Can they not have a superintendent in that position without the credential?
And if they have the jurisdiction to select,
there you go.
As far as I understand it, there are superintendents that are brought on by the school boards.
Yes.
That sort of run the school.
Yes.
But the county superintendent
is elected
by the people, and it's over all of the school boards.
Over all the superintendents of the school boards, yes.
And is sort of a middleman in a way between state and the superintendents and the school boards.
Right.
So right now it's Judy Flores.
Right.
She's actually up for election this coming year.
Right.
From what I've heard, the message that she's been bringing from the state to the superintendents and the school boards is one of fear. It's if you go against these mandates, you could be held personally liable. You could lose your house. Like things like that is what I've heard.
Fear tactics. Yep.
I don't know. And maybe, and again, the fear factor of what's real and what's not real. I don't know about that.
Well, I guess my point is what would it look like if we elected a county superintendent of schools that actually was a filter of truth and not basically a branch of the state to cause fear.
We'll be fixing to.
Yeah, like they can hear this information from the state and then come back and say, here's the reality. They're really pressing us hard, but we're a county that believes in choice, and at some point we got to call their bluff. And so I support you guys as a school board to do what is right for your school. And then all of a sudden now, say you've got, 3 out of 5 that were just waiting to hear that.
Right.
And then they go, you know what? We're going to be the first school to go. Kind of like Tim Garman.
Right.
How many more schools would have stood up like Tim if they had a superintendent that was bringing them a message of, you do what's right for your students?
Yes, a county superintendent.
Yeah,
Yes.
a county
Because their own
Judy
superintendent
Flores
they
position.
select. Go ahead.
Yeah, like the county. That's what I'm saying is like
Right.
that Judy Flores, the
Yes.
county superintendent, bringing a message of choice. And look, they're making threats right now, but like, let's call their bluff. You do what's right for the kids, and then we'll figure out what they're going to do. Are they really going to withhold funding for the school and let that school just fall apart? Are they really going to do that?
Well, and that's the beauty of that too, because that position that Judy Flores holds is an elected position. So therefore, that position interposes between the state and the other boards, superintendents within the county for all the schools in the county. So that position is an interposition position. They interpose. They're supposed to stand between the state and those other superintendents and the schools. So by being elected, if that person is not doing it, Judy Flores is not doing it, clearly, vote her out, vote somebody in that's going to do that and do exactly what you just said.
You're right. Because they're not a conduit.
Right.
They're not a conduit. They're somebody who can stand between.
Right. And they're not accountable to the state because they're elected by the constituency.
I just want to throw in one thing. It's this whole COVID, the timing, everything, it's very strange because the reality is there's a lot of people like Judy Flores. I don't know Judy. She might be a total rock star superintendent, but she's in this position at such a time as this. Mm-hmm. It's like business as usual and then COVID. And then now we're talking about mandates coming. This is stuff that they've never had to deal with in that position. How are they going to react in that moment? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because before COVID, they might have just been doing, regular superintendent stuff. And it has nothing to do with standing against the state. So all of a sudden now you're in a different position where, okay, your job has totally changed at this point. Now you're going to fight on behalf of the people. Well, that's not why I became a superintendent. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, but the problem with that is that the elected officials we have for the most part, and we experienced this especially since we've gotten into this, really going into local government, talking with folks. They don't know what their oath of office means.
Right.
They have no idea. We have supervisors that are talking about social contracts. She's probably of that thinking because you know why? They've never read this thing. They've never read the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, or understand the Constitution of California, and they take an oath to that in Article 20 in the California Constitution. The only role of government, the only reason government is instituted is to protect the rights of the people. That's the only thing. And if you have a law that doesn't protect those rights, there's many, which I won't get into now, but there's many articles in the California Constitution, and we've done that before in other podcasts, that give the jurisdiction to interpose between law that isn't lawful.
Right.
Really between bad law. And that's the thing. So as far as the superintendent goes, there will be people running for the superintendent of the schools of Shasta County. And there's a couple in particular that are amazing. They understand the Constitution, and guess what they're doing?
They're reading it. They're understanding it.
You can't take an oath to something and not know what's in it. And I think that that's one of the issues that everybody has to really understand when they run for office. It isn't about whether I cope with what's coming down now. And frankly, Ms. Flores has been coping with this for long enough to where she's got to see the writing on the wall. And
you're exactly right. And that's kind of my point is that their job before COVID, maybe they could skate through it without really understanding
what their job is,
because they weren't put in that situation. Now that they've been in that situation, it's you're relieved of duty. That's what we're doing as a county, because we have these leaders that might have been doing a bang up job before COVID, but then now we're seeing them in this position going, it's a different job now. And you're obviously not the right person for that job. Maybe you were the right person 3 years ago, but now it's like you've been put on the hot seat and you're not really reacting in a way that we as a community really expect you to react, as far as protecting our rights and interposing against the state. So,
and there's three phases of that. There's jurisdiction, whether you have jurisdiction over something; interposition, which is standing in between the unlawful position and the constituents that you have; and then there's nullification. And nullification is a very important form. That's what we can do. We can do that with an ordinance. We have a complete section in the California Constitution about ordinances. It's really kind of cool. That'll have to be kind of another show, and maybe you and I could talk later about it. But it's really kind of cool. Something we could do, and we could have a resolution and a similar ordinance going through all the counties of California. In a nutshell, you can't do an ordinance unless it complies with the California Constitution and law in California. Now, it's also listed in that manner. Okay, so the thing is that the template of nullification always is the template we have as the baseline of law, which in California is the United States Constitution. And I'll finish it with this. Article 3, Section 1 specifically states in the California Constitution that the state of California recognizes the Constitution of the United States of America as the supreme law of the land, which means that anything, and California is an inseparable part of that, which means that the state of California has to comply with, and their Constitution has to be in compliance with, the Constitution of the United States. And that's always the baseline, that's always the benchmark for any type of law or ordinance, the benchmark of number one, the United States Constitution, Article 3, Section 1 in the California Constitution, and Article 20, the oath of office of every single elected official and other people in appointed positions in the state of California in Article 20. And guess what? The first constitution that's listed in Article 20, where they take their oath, is the United States Constitution. The California Constitution is second.
There we go.
So let me ask you this, because for as long as I've known you, you've got all these ordinances and resolutions like up your sleeve, and I love it because it's not that many people think that way. And you're going, let's stop talking about this and let's just drop the hammer with the law, with the Constitution, and let's put the state of California on their heels. Let's defend this county in a really constitutional and tangible way and stop throwing around resolutions.
And the most important thing you've done is say this county, because it has to start there.
And I guess my question is, what would it take for one of these like ordinances that you have several that you're like, this would actually win in the court of law? So is it majority of the Board of Supervisors and their attorney suing the state and then it going up the chain till basically it is decided by like the Supreme Court or something?
Well, the thing is that, the word suing we have to get rid of. I mean, a lot of the answer, we may go 5 minutes over in this if that's okay, I guess. They're not nodding, so.
Or is it something that you could file? Like, how does it work? You have to have.
Well, here's the way it works.
Yeah.
Okay. See, the challenge we have, you were talking about how we've been talking about layers of things. Okay, one of the layers of that is the district attorney's office. That's one of the layers, and we won't get into that now, but we need to get into that because there's 5 different issues the district attorney of Shasta County has created that are unlawful, 5 of them. And there's many things that they're doing and that Stephanie Bridget, the district attorney here in Shasta County, is doing that's not really lawful and speculative and questionable at best. That would be our first resource to go to when somebody breaks the law. The sheriff is another resource. The sheriff could, and we had an hour-long meeting with him, more than that. Katie Gorman and myself had an hour-long meeting with the new sheriff, talking about how he can interpose between the schools and the kids with the mask issue, and more importantly, the vaccination issue, and be totally within the law, but not only within the law, but fulfilling his oath of office. So there's a lot of things that we need to get out to folks so they understand what the tool is. And then we have to act on that. And that's one thing that you, my friend, have brought to life in Shasta County, and that is you brought to life the thing by standing as this county, as that voice out there for America, saying, hey, no matter what county you're in the United States, they're not working right. The system, for the most part, is broken. It needs to be fixed. Let's create a template county by county.
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal from the very beginning.
Yes.
I saw a problem in our county, and I realized it's not just our county, it's every county. And how do you fix that? And I woke up in the middle of the night back in February, and I thought, a documentary, like a real-time docuseries. Because I love documentaries, and I watch a ton of them, and I find myself getting entertained by something I maybe would not have had any desire or passion to study. But then as I'm going through the series, I go, man, I'm being educated and I'm being inspired, and I kind of want to do that
You
or
took
whatever,
action.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, okay, can we do a documentary that is entertaining, but really more important than that, that's just the way to get people watching. But more important than that, it's inspiring people and educating people as to what the problem is so that they know how to fix it and kind of the steps it takes as a community coming together to fix it. And that was the idea behind Red, White, and Blueprint. And we're coming up to episode 7, which will release early 2022. I'm hoping the first week of January. And what we're seeing here in Shasta County is a community that's all rising up and getting in it's like a chess game. All the pieces are coming into position for next year, which is going to be really, really wild with so many different, the DA position, the school superintendent position, 3 seats from our board of supervisors. And there's a ton of people that are saying, hey, I'm going to run for that position as a constitutionalist. I tell all of them, go drink from Terry Rapoza's well for a little bit, because he's got some stuff up his sleeve that, I think I'm looking at going, man, 2022 is going to be pretty wild. And then when all these positions are filled, which would be January 1st, 2023, this county is going to look way different.
Yes, sir.
And it's really exciting because I think the change is going to be very drastic when we come in and we audit these departments and we get our county, our county departments cleaned up. We start getting rid of programs that aren't working well, implementing new innovative programs, outside the box thinking, studying all the other counties in the U.S. and saying, who's doing the very best job with the homeless, who's doing the very best job with social services or whatever, and saying, okay, we're going to scrap all these programs. I heard one recently was like, we spent $38 million and it helped 30 homeless people.
Yeah.
So like an average of 1.1 million
Per person.
See, a forensic audit would tell you exactly where that money went. And that's why I've been pounding the table for a forensic audit for years, 6 or 7 years at least. We need to have a forensic audit, a thorough forensic audit on the county.
Each department.
Each department, no matter what. Every single department.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's going to take 3 out of 5 supervisors that have a will to direct their CEO to hire an external company to come in and start doing that. Again, it comes back to January 1st, 2023. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be so many fantastic things happening very quickly, I believe, that other counties can look and say, there it is.
That's
They
the
did it.
template.
Yep.
There you go. All right.
Okay, well, thank you, brother. Hopefully we can do this again. There's about
Absolutely.
3 different ideas that you gave me during this that we could go ahead and we can put together 3 programs, taking each one of the specific layers and doing each one of those specifically. But thank you so much, my good friend, for what you do.
Amen.
Love you, brother.
Thank you.
And
Thanks
time
for
has
having me.
come.
For 51.
Let's get it done.
Amen.
ACA, come out and play. Have you seen the bill we all have to pay? It's not our bill, we had no say. You don't serve us, you serve LA. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind. You don't know us, you have no clue, and still you're telling us what to do. We don't know you or what you face. It's time to start a brand new state. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind.